What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Tiguan is built on the well-known platform PQ46, the same one on which 2 years before that made Passat B6. The bogie, by the way, as of the end of 2020 is still in business. Sharon and American Passat are assembled on it. The body is all steel, motors, only turbocharged in line 4, in front transversely, front drive, optionally, all-wheel drive through the Haldex clutch. The front suspension is McPherson. The rear suspension is multi-lever. Interestingly, the Tiguan has quite a lot of common details, both on the body and the interior, with the Golf Plus, built on a more compact platform PQ35. Because of this similarity, many people mistakenly classify the Tiguan as a Golf, but it's still not quite correct. Timeline December 2006. Design concept by Murat Gunak is presented at the Los Angeles Auto Show. September 2007. The production version is presented at the IAA in Frankfurt am Main. Motors are 1.4 TSI 150 horsepower or 2.0 TDI 140 horsepower and all-wheel drive. Transmission is either 6-speed manual or 6-speed DSG DQ250. February 2008. Start of sales of powerful versions with 2.0 TSI 170 and 200 horsepower engines and diesel 2.0 TDI 170 horsepower in combination with 6-speed. Hydromechanical automatic transmission ASIN or MKP. Deliveries of the version with 1.4 TSI and the above-mentioned ASIN automatic transmission have started in Russia. June 2010. Appearance of low-power engines. Diesel 2.0 with 110 horsepower and petrol 1.4 TSI with 122 horsepower. Both versions only with MKP and front-wheel drive. February-July 2011. Changes in the lineup of power units before the forthcoming restyling. Cars of this period in the old body may have new electronics and motors. July 2011 model restyling. Gasoline motors 1.4 TSI have been updated. The new version has 160 horsepower and is combined with 7-speed DSG DQ500. For Russia, a variant with a 6-speed ASIN remains. Motors 2.0 TSI have changed generation. New versions have 180 and 211 horsepower, and automatic transmission for them has been changed from DQ250 to DQ500. October 2012. Last update in the lineup of diesel motors of EA189 family, 177 horsepower version. May 2015. Appearance of the EA288 diesel engine family, which displaces the EA189. The 150 horsepower version replaces the 140 horsepower variant, and the 184 horsepower version. 177 horsepower variant, but the junior 110 horsepower diesel engine is still from the EA189 family. The appearance of the anniversary version with the 2.0 TSI motor power, 220 horsepower body. Exterior panels. The bulk of the cars are in good external condition. This is not surprising, given the average cost of more than 500,000 rubles. The cars are at least painted, or even repainted entirely when there are noticeable chips and corrosion. It is still profitable. However, minor damage and not particularly noticeable problems are often not repainted, fearing buyers with thickness gauges. There are quite a few typical points of damage. Hood edge and front edge of the roof show themselves on cars with highway operation even with low mileage, in the case of Moscow and St. Petersburg. The owner does not have to live outside the city. It is enough to regularly use the ring road, and in urban areas the problem manifests itself at mileage over 150 to 200,000 kilometers. Windshield molding rubs the paintwork in the lower part of the rack in all cars. There will be 100% paint blistering, or the place will be repainted, and the trouble is often treated under warranty. A good tone would be a vinyl film in this place. The joints of the front and rear fender and bumper are also a typical problem point, and a small swelling in practice can mean stripping and painting a very large hidden area under the plastic of the arch and bumper lining. The plastic guide of the bumper presses it from below against the fender edge, and the corrosion center grows outward and inward, up to the attachment point with a visit to the area of contact with the spar. It is complicated by the constant presence of dirt and moisture in the narrow joint. Small swellings and chips at the rear edge of the door handles inside the door look like a serious corrosion center. The paint layer inside is twice as thin, and the almost invisible problem from the outside looks different inside. Barely visible chipping and blistering under the door seals on the rear arches could also be just the tip of the iceberg. On the rear door, corrosion from under the glass seal and around the license plate hood is common, with the seams and linings mostly affected. Lower door linings of those who rarely wash the car rub the paintwork, and sometimes corrosion centers from the fastening holes come out. Take a look at the roof. Corrosion often appears at the rail's attachment points too. Sometimes the damage can extend beyond the railing post and become visible. It is also worth paying attention to the door openings. Small pockets of corrosion on the body posts near the hinges and on the inner vertical seams of the doors are not uncommon. It is desirable to repaint, but only the notorious thickness gauges can scare off a potential buyer at resale. Consider this point. In general, the quality of painting is not so high, the paintwork is flying off, the chips are blooming, but as long as the market value holds, the external panels are watched. The hidden ones, on the other hand, underneath. Certainly, Tiguan, even the first editions, does not remind 10-year classic jiguli. Thresholds here are almost certainly in place, if there were no large-scale bodyworks with application of Chinese spare parts. But numerous rust pockets are not particularly hidden. It is worth removing the lockers, and it becomes obvious that the car needed Antica from the very beginning. Damage to the seams and wide patches of peeling paintwork in the wheel arches are unpleasant to say the least. And most cars from Moscow or St. Petersburg will have this kind of damage. Besides, there is a small mud pocket behind the front lockers, and there are enough dirt accumulators in the rear arches. Very few owners bother with washing, which aggravates the situation. The bottom itself is mostly intact, only the sill edge suffers, it is weak, and zinc easily peels off there. Around the gas tank the area with thin paint is poorly ventilated. There is a lot of seam damage and surface corrosion. It is unlikely to remove the arches of wheel arches, but you can partially pull them off, if there are doubts about the safety of the fender under them. Mostly the fender edge and the area around the mounting holes are affected. Often the damage is not visible from the outside and will not be visible for many years. But the process has already started, and it can only be stopped by thorough cleaning and painting of the part. In addition to the arches, it is worth paying attention to other hidden areas. First of all, try to persuade the seller to remove the inner sill plates. There is very often damage to the paintwork due to flaw, matte fasteners and small pockets of corrosion at the junction with the plastic. Body equipment. The age of the car is not the same for something to break down massively, so there will be no big problems. Lost parts are not uncommon. Such problems are solved, although the price of some original parts bites, and among non-original parts, you can't find with normal quality. This applies to both dusters and overlays, and handles with headlights. Optics in cars are expensive, especially expensive LED taillights of versions after restyling and adaptive front optics, wherein addition to mechanical damage and burnout possible breakdowns of drives. In addition, adaptive has a lot of options. It is not always possible to quickly find the right option. The comparatively soft windshield rubs hard and does not tolerate attempts to remove it when repairing the frame. Fortunately, there is a wide selection of inexpensive and quality Chinese glass available. Surprisingly many problems for such a fresh car with power windows and locks. Failures of the locks, mirror drives and power windows are not only due to wiring failures. Here the actuating elements themselves do not have a very long life and safety margin. In addition, the aluminum bracket of the mirrors corrodes, which, in combination with the auto-folding function, leads to failure of the actuator. Failures of the locking device of the gas tank hatch and the rear door button are also frequent. All of these items are relatively simple and inexpensive to repair, but when the car is severely neglected, too much will have to be replaced. Interior. The Tiguan's interior is sturdy, and the quality of workmanship makes it possible to hope for a long and happy life. But much, as usual, depends on a complete set and chosen materials of finishing. On the average, visible wear is characteristic for mileage over 200, but the steering wheel loses a part of texture already at mileage 100 plus and careless care, if it is made of leather. Plastic steering wheel loses its original gloss already by 50,000, but it is not too noticeable. Further many tens of thousands it looks approximately the same, if it was not scratched and fingernails. If there are no buttons on the steering wheel, there is nothing to rub there, and if there are, their texture changes a lot, and the lining is wiped off. Leather seats. If the driver was not very heavy, after 100,000 require only cleaning and steam treatment to restore the texture. Visible and irreversible wear of leather is noticeable either when mileage is closer to 200, or if the driver was under 100 kilograms, or the interior was not cared for at all. In the case of seats with combined upholstery, the sides of the leatherette upholstery crack quickly, by 100,000, but the fabric usually withstands 200,000 or 300,000 miles. All fabric seats are rare, and their shape is not very good, but they are very strong and wear-resistant. Wear of control elements, climate knobs, steering wheel levers, box selector, is usually minimal, even in cars with mileage 200 plus. After cleaning they look good. Noticeable wear at low declared mileage is an unambiguous reason to approach the question of revealing the real kilometerage more thoroughly. And here such elements as rods of a duffel compartment in the center console, door handles and the button of disconnection of a start-stop system, can be worn out and at very small mileage. Here materials are simply not very successful. Small mechanization of the salon in Tiguan is strong. Tables and backs of seats, seat adjustments, hatches and other things usually work reliably. But it is not recommended to stand on seats with knees. Heating here is delicate, and mats tear at once. The climate system is complex, but usually works well. The flap gearboxes rarely fail. The system fan is resourceful. Denso system is slightly worse than Valeo, but there is no big difference. Failures do happen, but are usually cured by restarting or calibrating the system. Occasionally the control unit fails. It happened on the pre-restyling with Denso unit. Noises in air ducts of climatic system are usually a consequence of poor quality repairs or deflectors breakage. The air conditioner here is modern. On all versions it is with variable volumetric capacity, without a clutch. Sand compressors have a resource of about 150 to 200,000 runs. Denso compressors may have 300, but more often they are also bullied. At runs over 150 because of the missed level of lubrication and refrigerant. When replacing by expensive original is not necessary, there is an analog from Mahal or Loser, which will cost within €200, and will be of sufficient quality. And keep in mind that the killed compressor before death will abundantly clog the pipes of the system with its aluminum remains, so that in neglected cases simple replacement will not do, cleaning will be necessary. And the last thing on climatic, not too successful design of condensate drain from the heater body. Clog check valves often lead to a flood in the cabin. The main problem here, as with other PQ3546S, is the kolkhozing and the owner's irrepressible desire for perfection, often combined with a complete lack of understanding of how to carry out reinforcement work. As a result, the line additional noise insulation can hide damaged fasteners of almost all elements, where it can be damaged, new, and audible in silence crickets crookedly assembled interior. Installation of a new multimedia system is accompanied by rapid battery drain, scratches on all adjacent panels, non-functioning buttons, on the steering wheel and again crickets. Volkswagen is really a constructor for adults, especially in the part of the equipment of the interior, but not everyone can assemble the constructor correctly. Even in the presence of a huge number of offers on one Chinese site on bolt-on components of multimedia systems, navigation, cameras, tables, consoles, overlays, seats, covers, curtains, etc. To put it all need to know how. Electric's onboard electronics of cars on the PQ46 platform is quite complicated. It is written about it in detail in reviews Passat B6 or B7 at the same time. The internal compatibility of simple versions with more tricky ones causes an understandable desire to install something new. And here again we come to the issue of low quality of work. If you want a guaranteed absence of problems, it is better to take a car in a fully factory configuration, without kolkhoz. However, even if the car is completely stock, you should keep in mind some peculiarities. The wiring in the corrugations of the doors is delicate, and with mileage over 100 becomes brittle. In combination with the data buses in the door can be interesting troubles. Complex algorithms of power supply blocks and Slovak wiring from the engine ECU under the hood to the passenger compartment fuse box. And the entire passenger compartment harness can also please. I should mention that such cases are very rare, but they are very difficult to repair. As breakage happens right inside the insulation, without visible damage, it is very difficult to find a failure in such a case. If the wiring is wet, or a brilliant electrician poked a feeler gauge through the insulation, then such places are guaranteed to have problems in the future. And you will have to look for them literally with your hands, It is not always possible to catch them with a scanner. Although the presence of a diagnostic device is extremely desirable, you will definitely need it, and more than once. Intermediate result in general, there is nothing wrong with it so far. The paintwork is not very high quality, corrosion is likely to have already started in hidden cavities, but it can be fixed relatively inexpensively. If the interior and electrics are very much injected, it can become a much more significant and expensive problem, but fortunately, not all cars have been subjected to barbaric improvements, so it is quite realistic to find an acceptable variant in the next installment. We'll look at the powertrain modifications. There are no simple motors here, but what is worse, gasoline or diesel? Is it necessary to be afraid of DSG and to look for a variant with hydromechanics? The answers will be not unambiguous at all. In conclusion, the Volkswagen Tiguan I presents a unique blend of practicality and quirks, especially when it comes to its exterior and interior features. While the flying paint may raise concerns about durability, the interior's kolkhoz charm adds a distinct character that some may find endearing. Ultimately, this vehicle reflects a balance between functionality and individuality, making it a noteworthy choice for those who appreciate its unconventional traits. Thank you for watching, and we hope this exploration of the Tiguan I has provided you with valuable insights.